Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Shabbat Shalom to the whole entire house, the whole entire Ba'it of Yasha'al. All 12 tribes worldwide, wherever your feet are touching the soil, on this most Kadush Yom, which is a sign, a seal, and a mark of the everlasting covenant between Yahuwah and his people. It is a day in which identifies us as his covenant people. It is a day that identifies him as the Elohim of creation. Shabbat Shalom, excuse me, to the elder brother, Yahudym. Shabbat Shalom to the younger brother, Ephraim. Shabbat Shalom to the former stranger, the former foreigner, who was formerly estranged from the everlasting covenant, but having received the Ruach of adoption, the Ruach HaKadosh, who is the Ruach of Yahushua HaMashiach, and whereby having been engrafted into the olive tree, who is Yahushua HaMashiach, who is Yasha'al, and whereby having become a fellow citizen of Yasha'al, and whereby now becoming privy to the same everlasting covenant and promise and inheritance that was given to Yasha'al and to Yasha'al alone. Shabbat Shalom to you. Peace and blessings. Shalom and Barak'u to you and your entire house, wherever your feet are touching the soil on this most Kadush Yom, which is to say this most separated Yom, which is separated above all other days, because indeed it joins us to the everlasting covenant that the Master has established between him, his people, and creation. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to you and your entire house. Once again, we welcome you. To those of you who are on YouTube, who will hear this message, who will hear this teaching later on, welcome. We are grateful once more that the Master has moved upon your heart to move you to share in and to fellowship with us, Yahuwah's remnant, on this Shabbat Yom, albeit it will be later on for you. And as I've spoken that is a segue, Barak Yahuwah. If you desire to join us live for either our fourth day gatherings or our Shabbat gatherings, my Aisha here, she's going to post an email when this video uploads. There will be an email address in the description block of this video, of which you may use to contact us if you have a desire to fellowship with us, to join us for either our fourth day gatherings or our Shabbat gatherings. We'll be grateful to hear from you, and we'll be even more grateful if the Master moves upon you, if the Master prepares a way and opens a door for you to fellowship with us. Nevertheless, we are grateful that via whatever venue, whether you're joining us live or whether you're going to hear this later on, we're grateful that you're here to join us in Yahuwah's Remnant Shabbat gathering, in which once more we are not some camp, we're not some church, we're not some organization, we're not some 501(c)(3) organization. We simply are what we are, and that is Yahuwah's Remnant. We are a gathering of Yahuwah's remnant people across the four corners of this earth, of whom he is gathering and sealing with the seal of the living Elohim during this Muad'Av, this appointed time, during the consummation of the times. We are his remnant people. We are Yahuwah's remnant people. We are his covenant people, of whom he is identified in this season of a great separation. We are his covenant people, of whom he is gathering unto himself across the four corners of this earth to Yahuwah willing bring us to Mount Zion, to where we will be given a song that no one else can sing. Nevertheless, we welcome you. We welcome you. If you've heard this call, if you've heard the call of the Master, perhaps you are his sheep. Or perhaps you are Yahuwah's remnant, because indeed his sheep hear his voice, and another voice they will not follow. Welcome to Yahuwah's Remnant Shabbat gathering. I am Dawood ben Yahuwah. This is my Aisha, that is to say wife, Ashayah.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to you. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom to all of you, wherever you are listening under the sound of my voice, wherever your feet are touching the soil on this most Kadosh Yom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Before we get started, just a little housekeeping. Just a little housekeeping. I'm going to have my Aisha just peek over at the camera for me and make sure that it's recording, because, you know, I have to go by hearing right now, and I listen for the camera to start, for it to make that thump, you know what I mean, little one that, no, I didn't hear it.
It's going.
It's going, Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. I don't want to be doing all this talking and yelling and sweating and carrying on, and the camera ain't even going. Barak Yahuwah. So I appreciate that. Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah. Here we are. Here we are once more continuing this journey. And this is a journey, a narrow journey, a razor-thin journey, that if we just endure, Yahudym, that if we just endure this narrow, thin, razor-thin journey will lead us to Mount Zion. If we just endure. If we just endure. For those of you who are new, you're wondering, well, why do I say Yahudym? Why do I say Yahudym? I'm not going to give you a whole replay, but just in case this may be your first time listening to Yahuwah's Remnant channel. And I by the way, I encourage you to go back to at least 54. At least searching for the Ancient Path, part 54, to catch up. But I encourage you to go even further back than that. But the Master has sent me by to speak to a remnant people, and that is the house of Yahudym. In accordance with the very scriptures that most people of the Christian church or most people who acknowledge that there is a creator of Elohim, who acknowledge the Elohim of Yahshua, you read these very same scriptures of which I'm speaking about. And in those scriptures, you will find in the 37th chapter of Ezekiel, you will find a mention of two sticks. You will find a mention of the house of Yehuda, commonly called Judah, and the house of Ephraim, commonly called Ephraim. You will find these two sticks separate. But in Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, there you find that these two sticks are one day going to become one stick. We are not at that day. These two sticks are still separate. These two houses have been separate since the time of after Shalama. After sovereign Shalama was, after he died and his son took over the kingdom, the 12 tribes split into two kingdoms. It split into the southern kingdom, which is the kingdom of Yehuda, comprised of the tribe of Yehuda and Benjamin, and the Levites, and the northern kingdom, which is called Ephraim or Ephraim, which is comprised of 10 tribes, The northern kingdom was divorced in the year 722 BCE and dispersed to the four corners of this earth. In accordance with Genesis, the 48th chapter, verse 19, Ephraim has now become the completeness of the nations. In other words, Ephraim has now become every nation, tribe, and tongue. He is the completeness of the nations. He is the fulfillment of the robe that was given to his father, Yahusha, by his father, Yahuwah, a coat of many colors. Indeed, Ephraim is now a coat of many colors, and he is again every nation, tribe, and tongue. But he was divorced. He was divorced in the year 722 BCE, and until this day, he still remains divorced as a whole. As a whole, he still remains divorced. He will remain divorced, or in other words, estranged from the covenant, estranged from the everlasting covenant as a whole until after the great distress. He is destined. Ephraim is destined for Yahuwah's distress. Yes, he is. It's in the scriptures. It's in the text. This is what Yahweh was talking about in chapter 31 and in chapter 30. And that out of distress, Yasha'al is going to be saved. Who is Yasha'al? Yasha'al is Ephraim. Yes, he is. Because Yasha'al carries the name of his grandfather, Yahudim, whose name was changed to Yasha'al. So out of distress, Yasha'al will be saved. Ephraim will be saved. He is destined for Yahudym's distress because as the younger son, as the younger daughter, he is still full of folly, as any child is. He is still full of folly, walking according to the lust of his flesh. Thus, his father is going to have to chastise him with a rod of discipline, otherwise called Yahudym's distress. He is destined for it. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. On the other hand, Yahudah, while Yahudah was more treacherous than Ephraim, yes, he was. Yes, he was. It's in the text as well. Yahu chapter 3. Yahudah and the rest of the text. You can read the history of Yahudah. You can read the history of Yahudah. Yahudah put to death the Mashiach. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Yahudah put to death the Mashiach. So Yahudah was more treacherous than Ephraim. Yet Yahudah was never divorced. Why? Not because of their righteousness, but because the Mashiach, Yahushua HaMashiach, had to come via the house of Yahudah. He had to come through the loins of sovereign Dawood. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Why? Because when the people of Yasha'al requested a sovereign, and it made Yahuwah very angry. It made him very angry because Yahuwah and Yahuwah alone is the sovereign of the nation of Yasha'al. Yes, he is. And so when they requested a sovereign, what they were essentially saying is that we don't want Yahuwah to be our sovereign. We want a man to be our sovereign. Yahuwah, although he was angry because of their intent, he allowed it because he knows the end from the beginning. And he allowed it for this reason. He allowed it because everything, whether it is in Shamayim or on earth, is governed by legalities. It is governed by Torah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And as the earth was given to flesh, as the earth was given to men, it is governed by flesh. So that means that our Creator, Yahuwah Elohim, he himself would not go where he does not have a legal right to be. Thus he came in flesh in the earth, in the loins of Dawood. Now, going back to the sovereign, going back to the sovereigns of Yasha'al. The sovereigns of Yasha'al were representation of Yahuwah himself. They were supposed to rule as Yahuwah. They were supposed to look like Yahuwah, talk like Yahuwah, and rightly rule as Yahuwah. The only one that did this was sovereign Dawood. He's the only one. Thus, through sovereign Dawood, he did what? He established his throne in the earth legally. Legally, he established his throne through sovereign Dawood, and this is why he made a promise to Dawood that you will never lack a man to sit on the throne of Yahudah throughout eternity. Throughout eternity. That man is Yahuwah himself, but he had to legally establish himself in the earth through flesh, and that was Dawood. So this is the only reason that Yahudah wasn't divorced. It wasn't because of our righteousness. It was because he made a promise, an everlasting covenant with Dawood, and because he himself had to come through the loins of Dawood. Nevertheless, Yahudah has never been divorced, not because of our righteousness, because we were very treacherous. Yahudah has never been divorced, but Ephraim has been divorced since the year 722 BCE. Thus, as Yahudah has never been divorced, it is written in the Torah that the scepter shall not pass from Yahudah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shilu being Yahushua HaMashiach, Shilu comes in order to reestablish the whole house of Yasha'al. This is then when two sticks will become one. Yahudah and Ephraim will become one stick, one nation, one woman, joined to one husband, the second Adam, as Yasha'al is a representation of Kua, the second Adam, who is Yahushua HaMashiach. And so this is the foundation of that to you nations who are just joining in today. This is the foundation of that, and we'll give you a little bit more foundation. And then that foundation is this, that in this season, in this muwadah, in this consummation of the times, in which Hasatan himself is getting ready to put on flesh and come to this earth. Yes, he is. It's in the text. It's in those very same texts that most of you don't like to read. It's in that very same text that Hasatan himself is getting ready to put on flesh. Death is getting ready to put on flesh and come to this earth. Yes, he is. As Yahuwah is life, Hasatan is death. He is his counterpart. He is his opposite. As Yahuwah is good, he is evil. So death is getting ready to put on flesh and come upon this earth very, very soon. But the Master Yahuwah has spoken. He has spoken in his word. He has spoken through the mouth of his servant that he desires to keep the elder son who has never been divorced, the elder daughter who has never been divorced, although treacherous, but never been divorced. He desires to keep Yahudah from the hour of trial that is soon to come upon the earth. We know that Yahudah, he has revealed to us, is the 144,000. Plus those who are attached to us. This is the house of Yahudah, of whom he has promised, if we guard his word of endurance and do not deny his name, that he has promised to keep us from the hour of trial. He's coming to get the elder daughter, the elder son, to rejoin us in marriage with him first, in a renewed covenant with him first, and bring us to his Kadush mountain. No different than he brought our ancestors out of the land of Egypt and brought them to Mount Sinai. He wants to bring his covenant people in the same way that he brought out 12 tribes who were a whole nation and who were his covenant people at that time. He wants to bring us out of Egypt, his covenant people, to his Kadush mountain, and then bring us first back into the land as the tents of Yahudah shall be saved first. It's in the text, in the very same text that most of you don't like to read, that the tents of Yahudah shall be saved first. The tents of Yahudah shall be saved first. And we learn in Genesis chapter 29 that it is Torah. It is Torah for the elder daughter to always be given in marriage first. And then following her 7 days later, on the 7,000th year, the younger daughter, Ephraim, will be given away in marriage. We find this taking place again in Genesis 29 in the story of Leah and Rachel, Leah and Rachel. Leah being the elder daughter given away in marriage first, who is the mother of Yahudah. Rachel given in marriage 7 days later, who is the mother of Yahusah, who is the father of Ephraim. And so here is the foundation, nations, for those of you who don't want to go back and listen to previous videos. Here we are. Here we are now at the consummation of the time. Yahudah is being prepared. Yahudah is being sealed with the seal of the living Elohim and is being separated from the nations in order to be found doing, in order to be found working and well-doing, so that when he comes here shortly, when our master, when our Mashiach comes here shortly, he's coming to gather Yahudah, whom he finds doing well-doing. But the master, over the course of the past few weeks, has shown us that just because you think you're Yahudah, just because you say you're Yahudah, that everyone who says that they are Yahudym are not Yahudym. He has made this abundantly clear that we must be found worthily walking as Yahudym, and we must have certain characteristic traits in order to be certain that we are Yahudah and that we are not Ephraim, that we are not Ephraim, because again, Ephraim is destined for the hour of trial. And so he is impressed upon us to ensure that we are in truth attached to the house of Yahudah, his covenant people, of whom he's coming to get, and not Ephraim, who is still divorced, lest you be drawn into the valley of oh no, saying, oh no, how did I end up here? And so he has given us some traits and some characteristics to make the distinction, to make to where it is absolutely clear, to where there is no question as to who is Yahudah and who is Ephraim. This distinction is that there has never been a more important time in our history, in the history of this flat plane earth, to understand how to make this distinction now between the house of Yahudah and the house of Ephraim, because it is only the house of Yahudah who will escape the hour of trial. And so the Master has given us a series of building blocks, a series of building blocks on which to build. He will give us building blocks, and then he will take us to the book of Matthew so that we can see it real time. We can see the footsteps of the Master. We can see what it looks like to be a Yahudi, because he has shown us and told us that indeed if it does not look like Yahusha, it's wrong. He came to Yahudah as a Yahudi man to show Yahudah what it looks like to walk as a Yahudi man. And so the Master has impressed upon us that if it does not look like Yahusha, it's wrong. If it does not look like him, it is wrong. It is wrong. And he has impressed upon us now through these building blocks to follow the cloud. To follow the cloud. And if we indeed just follow the cloud in the same way that the cloud being salvation wrapped up in a cloud, Yahusha is the cloud. In the same way that the cloud led our ancestors out of Egypt, that same cloud will lead us out of Egypt to Mount Zion and then back into our land. And so he's given us a series of building blocks, and today is no different. Today perhaps is the most important building block to date. All of them have been important, but today he sent me by to talk about a building block for the house of Yahudah. Just Yahudah. Just Yahudah. Whether you're native born or stranger, it don't matter. Again, Kalab was not native born. Whether you're native born or stranger, it matters not. If you're attached to Yahudah and if you walk as a Yahudym, you're Yahudym. But he sent me by with this to only his covenant people, only the house of Yahudah, only his sheep, because only his sheep will hear his voice, and only his sheep will not follow another voice. He sent me by with the most important building block today, to date, for his covenant people. So if you are taking notes on this day, the title of this teaching is Searching for the Ancient Path, Part 73. Searching for the Ancient Path, Part 73. Walk as Yahudym. Walk as Yahudym. Because indeed, if we're not walking as Yahudym, we're not Yahudym. And if we're not walking as Yahudym and not being Yahudym, we're not going to be saved from the hour of trial and brought to Mount Zion. Don't let these words fall void to the ground. Don't miss your time, your hour of visitation. I don't know how much longer he's going to speak through his servant in this way. I don't know. I just speak what he tells me to speak. Most times I don't know what he's going to speak from week to week. I don't know what he's going to speak. But he usually gives me what he wants to speak right before it's time to speak. Yesterday he gave me what he wanted. Yesterday he just put together what he wanted me to speak today. So I don't know. And as he was speaking, we were writing it down. We would simply put this precept here, and he tells me where he wants the precepts. I don't know where he wants them. He tells me where he wants the precepts, and then he speaks through me what he wants his people to hear. So I don't know how much longer he's going to do this. I don't know. That's his business. But here we are at the most important building block to date. Searching for the Ancient Path, Part 73, Walk as Yahudym. And if you're still taking notes, the Master still wants us to follow the cloud. We must follow the cloud. But the Master wants us to know something else. He wants his covenant people to know something else. He wants you to know this, and that is the blood, the dam. The blood is the way of the Yahudym. The blood, the dam, is the way of the Yahudym. It is the way of his covenant people. Hear him. The blood, the dam, is the way of the Yahudym. It is the way to Mount Zion. The blood, the dam, is the way to Mount Zion. It is the way of his covenant people. It is the way of his covenant people. Sounds simple. It's not that simple. Line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little. We must follow the cloud. The blood, the dam is the way. The dam is the way of his covenant people. It is the way of his covenant people. Before he gets into this message, the master has about 2 or 3 foundational texts foundational texts that are part of the teaching, but they are foundational to the teaching. They are part of the teaching, but they are foundational to the teaching in order to establish the way. In order to establish the way. And in order to get to a foundation, Yahudah, you know where we go. We always must go to the Torah. To get to the foundation of a matter, we always must go to the Torah. The Torah is the foundation of which we build. It is the solid foundation on which we build. Anyone knows anything about building, know that the foundation is the most important piece of the structure. Without a solid, a sound foundation, the structure will crumble. We know that Yahushua is the living Torah. He is the Torah. Yes, he is. He is the foundation. Yahuwah is Torah. He is Yahushua. He is the foundation. And so without this foundation of Torah, Yahuwah, Yahushua being Torah, everything else is going to crumble. It's going to crumble. And so let's go to the Torah now to establish this foundation of the blood is the way. The Dam is the way. It is the way of his covenant people. It is the way to Mount Zion. The Dam, the blood, is the way to Mount Zion. Reading now from Dabarim, what chapter, little one?
We have Leviticus first.
I'm sorry. Leviticus what, little one?
17:10.
Oh, Barak Yahuwah, thank you. Uikra, Leviticus chapter 17. What verse, little one?
10 to 14.
Verses 10 through 14. Verses 10 through 14. It's good to have a good helpmeet, little one.
All esteem to the master.
Barak Yahuwah, all esteem to the master. Barak Yahuwah. Wonderful to have a good helpmeet. Uikra, Leviticus chapter 17. Let's get to the foundation. Verses 10 through 14. Leviticus, Uikra, chapter 17, verses 10 through 14. Verses 10 through 14. Uikra, Leviticus, chapter 17, verses 10 through 14. Let's get some foundation. Beginning at verse 10. Read, little one.
And any man of the house of Yasharal, or of the strangers who sojourn among you.
Of the house of who, little one?
Of the house of Yasharal.
Of the house of Yasharal. This is his covenant people in the wilderness. This is all 12 tribes. All 12 tribes were together at this time. 722 BC had not arrived. And so this instruction is given to who? His covenant people. His covenant people. He said to the house of Yasharal and to the strangers welcome. You're no different than a native born if you do what Yahudah does. Come on, read.
Who eats any blood, I shall set my face against that being who eats blood, and shall cut him off from among his people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood. For the life of the creature is in his blood. For the life of the creature is in his blood. Read. And I have given it to you upon the slaughter place.
And I have given it to you. Who? My covenant people. Who is who? Yahudah. Yahudah is his covenant people. I have given it to you, Yahudah, his covenant people, upon the slaughter place. Ephraim, even if he comes back, he must come through a Yahudi man and engraft into the house of Yahudah. Yes, he does. He engrafts into the house of Yahudah. Ephraim will not be restored until after the great distress. Yahudah is his covenant people. I have given it to you, Yahudah, upon the slaughter place. Read.
To make atonement for your lives.
To make atonement for your lives. For your lives. For your lives. For your lives. You want to live. You want to escape the great distress. You want to escape death. Who is Hasatan? The great distress is death. The blood is the way. The Dam is the way. It is the way of his covenant people. It is the way of the Yahudym. I have given it to you for atonement for your lives. Come on, read.
For it is the blood that makes atonement for life.
For it is the blood, the Dam, that makes atonement for life. Barak Yahuwah. I'm not going to speak much more on this. Line upon line, precept upon precept. The Dam is the way. It is the way of his covenant people. It is the way to Mount Zion. It is the way of his covenant people. Line upon line, let the master build his case. Give us another precept. Keep reading, little one.
Therefore I said to the children of Yasharal, no being among you eats blood, nor does any stranger who sojourns among you eat blood. And any man from the children of Yasharal or from the strangers who sojourn among you, who hunts and catches any beast or bird which is eaten, shall pour out his blood and cover it with dust.
Shall pour out his blood upon the ground and cover it with dust. Shall pour out his blood upon the ground and cover it with dust. Read.
For it is the life of all flesh.
For it is the life of all flesh. It is the life of all flesh. Read.
Its blood is for its life.
Its blood is for its life. Is there any more, little one?
Yes. And I said to the children of Yasharal, do not eat the blood of any flesh, for the life of all flesh is its blood. Anyone eating it is cut off.
Anyone eating it is cut off. I'm not gonna speak much more on this. The master is simply, these are foundational texts. But understand that the life of the creature is its blood, and he has given it to his covenant people. The master has given the blood only, hear him, only to his covenant people. Only to his covenant people for atonement upon the altar for atonement for their lives. Therefore, you're not to eat the blood. You're to pour it out on the ground. You have to pour it out on the ground. You have to pour it out on the ground and cover it up with dust. Give us another precept, little one.
Deuteronomy 12:21-25.
Deuteronomy what?
12:21-25.
Deuteronomy 12, Dabarim chapter 12. Verses 21 through 25. Dabarim, Deuteronomy chapter 12. Verses 21 through 25. Dabarim, Deuteronomy chapter 12. Verses 21 through 25. Dabarim, Deuteronomy chapter 12. Verses 21 through 25. Beginning at verse 21. Read for us, little one.
When the place where Yahuwah your Elohim chooses to put his name is too far from you, then you shall slaughter from your herd and from your flock, which Yahuwah has given you, as I have commanded you. And you shall eat within your gates as much as your being desires. Only as the gazelle and the deer are eaten, so you are to eat of it. The unclean and the clean alike eat of it. Only be strong not to eat the blood, for the blood is the life.
For the blood is the life. Read.
Do not eat the life with the meat.
Do not eat the life with the meat. Read.
Do not eat it.
Do not eat it. Read.
You pour it on the earth like water.
You pour it on the earth like water. Read.
Do not eat it that it might be well with you.
Do not eat it that it might be well with you.
And your children after you.
And your children after you.
When you do what is right in the eyes of Yahuwah.
Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Out of the mouth of two or more witnesses, let every matter be established. Don't eat the blood. It is the life of the creature. Pour it out upon the ground like water. Cover it up with dust. Out of the mouth of two or more witnesses, let every matter be established. Indeed, I'm not going to speak much more on this right now as the master continues to build the foundation in Torah. Read, little one. Give us another precept.
Genesis 2:7-17.
Let's go now to Barashit. Let's go to the very beginning. Barashit, Genesis chapter 2. Barashit, Genesis chapter 2. Barashit, Genesis chapter 2. Barashit, in the beginning, Genesis chapter 2. Barashit, Genesis chapter 2, beginning at verse 7 and reading down through verse 17. Beginning at verse 7 and reading down through verse 17. Beginning at verse 7 and reading down through verse 17. Line upon line, precept upon precept. The blood is the way. The blood is the way. It is the way of the master's covenant people. It is the way of the Yahudym. It is the way of the Yahudym. Genesis 2, Barashit, chapter 2, beginning at verse 7. Read verse 7 for us, little one.
And Yahuwah Elohim formed the man out of dust from the ground.
And Yahuwah Elohim formed the man out of the dust from the ground. Read.
And breathed into his nostrils breath of life.
And breathed into his nostrils breath of lives. Breath of lives. Come on, read.
And the man became a living being.
And the man became a living being. Come on.
And YAHUAH'S planted a garden in Adam to the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground YAHUAH'S made every tree grow that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, with the tree of life in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Adam to water the garden, and from there it divided and became 4 heads. The name of the first is Pashun. It is the one surrounding the entire land of Kawala, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. Badalam is there, and the Shoham stone, and the name of the second river is Gakun. It is the one surrounding the entire land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Kakadal. It is the one which goes toward the east of Ashar. And the fourth river is the Euphrates. And YAHUAH'S took the man and put him in the garden of Adam to work it and to guard it. And YAHUAH'S commanded the man, saying,
YAHUAH'S commanded the man, saying, read.
Eat of every tree of the garden.
Eat of every tree of the garden. Read.
But do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
But do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Read.
For in the day that you eat of it, you shall certainly die.
For in the day that you eat of it, you shall certainly die. Read.
That's it.
Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Turn the chapter. Turn the page to Genesis chapter 3. Line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little. The dam, the blood is the way. It is the way of the Yahudym of his coveted people. Yes, it is. It is the way to Mount Zion. It is the way to Mount Zion. It is the way to life. Yes, it is. Genesis chapter 3, Barashit chapter 3, beginning at verse 1. Read, little one.
And the Nakash was more crafty than all the lives of the field, which YAHUAH'S had made. And he said to the woman, is it true that Elohim has said, do not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the Nakash, we are to eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, do not eat of it, nor touch it, lest you die. And the Nakash said to the woman, you shall certainly not die. For Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes shall be open, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise. And she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made loin coverings for themselves. And they heard the voice of YAHUAH'S walking about in the garden in the cool of day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahuwah Elohim among the trees of the garden. And YAHUAH'S called unto Adam and said to him, where are you? And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, so I hid myself. And he said, who made you know that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree of which I commanded you that you should not eat? And the man said, the woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate. And YAHUAH'S said to the woman, what is this you have done? And the woman said, the Nakash deceived me, and I ate. And YAHUAH'S said to the Nakash, because you have done this, you are cursed more than all livestock, and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you are to go, and eat dust all the days of your life. And I put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall crush your head, and you shall crush his heel. To the woman he said, I greatly increase your sorrow and your conception. Bring forth children in pain, and your desires for your husband, and he does rule over you. And to the man he said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, do not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you.
Cursed is the ground because of you. Read.
In toil you are to eat of it all the days of your life.
In toil you are to eat of it all the days of your life. Read.
And the ground shall bring forth thorns and thistles for you.
And the ground shall bring forth thorns and thistles for you. Read.
And you shall eat the plants of the field.
And you shall eat the plants of the field.
By the sweat of your face you are to eat bread.
By the sweat of your face you are to eat bread.
Until you return to the ground.
Until you return to the ground. Until you return to the ground. Until you return to the ground. Read.
For out of it you were taken.
For out of it you were taken.
For dust you are.
For dust you are.
And to dust you return.
And to dust you return.
And the man called his wife's name Kua.
And the man called his wife's name Kua, which means life. Read.
Because she became the mother of all living.
Read.
And YAHUAH'S made coats of skin for the man.
And YAHUAH'S made coats of skin for the man.
And his wife and dressed them.
And his wife and dressed them.
Then YAHUAH'S said, see, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. So YAHUAH'S sent him out of the garden of Adam to till the ground from which he was taken. And he drove the man out, and he placed cherubim at the east of the garden of Adam, and a flaming sword which turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life.
Barak Yahuwah, Barak Yahuwah. Now let's have a recap. The life of the creature is his blood. And he has given us the blood upon the altar to make atonement for our lives. You are not to eat this blood. You are to pour it out on the ground, on the ground, on the ground, and cover it up with dust. You are to pour it out as water upon the ground and cover it out and cover it up with dust, because the life of the creature is in his blood. Man was brought forth from ground. He was brought forth from the ground. He was brought forth from the ground, and Yahuwah breathed in the breath of lives into him, and man became a living being. He then gave commandment to Adam and Kua, of every tree of the garden you may partake of, except of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For the day in which you partake of that tree is the day that you shall die. Do you not know that the everlasting covenant was established with Adam and Kua, his firstborn? Yes, it was. This is why it is reestablished and renewed with his firstborn. It was reestablished. It was originally established with his firstborn, Adam and Kua. Yes, it was. The day that you partake of this tree is the day that you will die. Genesis chapter 3, we find them partaking of the tree, of the fruit. And they hid, thinking that they could hide from the master. The master confronted them about what they had done. Understand this. Understand this. The day that they partook of the fruit, they died. Yes, they did. They died that day. Adam and Kua, they died. Hear him. Hear him. When you die, listen, when you die, it is as though all of your life, all of your blood is being poured out of your body and being returned from the place from which it came, the ground, the dirt. As the life is dead, as the body is dead without blood, you're dead without blood. You have no life in you. You have no life in you. And so the day that they partook of the fruit, all of their blood was drained from their bodies. They died. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. This is why we find when the master slew 2 animals and their blood was poured into the ground from whence man came for them, in order to do what? In order to give them life. A life for a life. Blood for blood. All their blood was drained out. And so that not literally but figuratively. And so that they could live, the blood of an animal was drained. And it was drained upon the ground and covered up. And the master fashioned 2 skins for them. A life for a life. Without the blood, without the dam, you have no life. And he did what then? And he did what when he covered them with skins? He renewed his covenant with them. Yes, he did. Because there was a shadow of the circumcision not made with hands. As a man, as an uncircumcised man is able to pull the skin back on his penis. He's able to pull the skin back and to expose the nakedness underneath. A circumcised man, once the circumcision, the cut, the split has healed, the skin grows in such a way that it covers it covers the nakedness. And he can no longer pull it back to expose the nakedness underneath. Here, when these skins covered them, he renewed his covenant with them by blood. And when renewing his covenant with them, he poured life into them. He poured life into them so that they were not instantly consumed that day. So that they were not instantly consumed. When you commit crime, Yahudah, you die. When we commit crime, we die. I think we're getting ready to read this, are we not, little one?
Leviticus 5:14.
Oh, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. You die, Yahudah. When you commit crime, you go back to the soil. And so the blood then has to be poured upon the soil to give you life, Yahudah. And you must be resurrected from the dead. Because of Adam and Kua, every man, every woman is dead. Is dead men walking unless the blood has been poured out upon the soil for you. And you have been resurrected. You have been resurrected. The blood is poured upon the soil because this is the place from which man comes. And it is poured upon the soil to give man what? To give us new life. To give us new life. The blood, the dam is the way. It is the way of the Yahudym. It is the way of his covenant people. It is the way to Mount Zion. Without the dam, without the blood, you have no life in you. You have no life in you. Line upon line, precept upon precept. I don't want to talk too much. I want the master to talk via his precepts. Line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little. The dam is the way. It is the way of his covenant people. Give us another precept, little one.
Leviticus 5:14-19.
Leviticus 5. Uikra chapter 5. Leviticus chapter 5. Uikra chapter 5. Verses 14 through 19. Uikra, Leviticus chapter 5. Verses 14 through 19. Uikra, Leviticus chapter 5. Verses 14 through 19. Leviticus Uikra chapter 5, verses 14 through 15. Come on, read. Beginning at verse 14, little one.
And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, when a being commits a trespass,
when he transgresses the Torah, read.
And has sinned by mistake,
read.
Against the Kadush matters of Yahuwah, then he shall bring to Yahuwah as his guilt offering a ram, a perfect one from the flock, with your valuation in shekels of silver, according to the shekel of the Kadush place, as a guilt offering. And he shall make good for that sin that he has done against that which is Kadush.
He shall slaughter that ram, in other words. His throat shall be slit, his blood shall be drained, and the blood is to be poured out on the ground. From the place from which man came, a life for a life, blood for blood. The life of the creature is his blood. Blood is life. Even the Red Cross tells us that, little one. Blood is life. The life of the creature is his blood. And so a life for a life. When you sin, this means you die. And this means that your blood is being poured out of your body. All of it, all of your life is being poured out of your body. But so that he didn't slay you or slay us, he says, listen, my covenant people, you take this ram in your stead. You slit its throat. You drain all of its life, all of its blood, and pour it out on the ground so that you can be resurrected because you're truly dead. Because you committed crime. You dead. You a dead man walking. You're dead. So pour the blood upon the ground from which you came so that I can resurrect you. So that you will have life. Come on, read.
And shall add 1/5 to it, and give it to the priest. And the priest shall make atonement for him with the ram of the guilt offering, and it shall be forgiven him. And when any being sins and have done what is not to be done against any of the commands of Yahuwah, though he knew it not, yet he shall be guilty and shall bear his crookedness. Then he shall bring to the priest a ram, a perfect one from the flock, with your valuation as a guilt offering. And the priest shall make atonement for his mistake he committed unintentionally, though he did not know it, and it shall be forgiven him. It is a guilt offering. He was truly guilty before Yahuwah.
You were truly guilty, Yahudah. You were truly guilty. The blood is the way. In the same way here, the blood is poured out upon the ground from the place from which man came, because you died, you dead. You dead. I think the next one is what I'm thinking about, little one.
Romans
About
16.
yes, ma'am. Yeah, Romans what?
16.
Yes, ma'am. The wages of sin is death. The wages of sin is death, period. The wages of sin is death. You sin, you die. You sin, you die. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. All of your blood, all of your life is drained from your body. And because you have no blood, you have no life, you need new blood in you. You need more blood in you. You are deficient of blood. What's that condition they call, little one? Anemia? Oh, you're a severe anemia.
Yes.
You're a severe anemia. You have no blood. You have no life. You are the living dead. Oh, you thought those were just movies, huh? You are the living dead. You have no blood. You need more blood in you. You have no life because you committed sin. And so he gave us these rams, or these animals, these bullocks, or these goats, to pour the blood upon the ground, the place from which man came, because you got to be resurrected, because you dead. You got to be resurrected from the soil, so the blood, the life, is poured into the ground. Life is re-poured into you. Life is re-poured into you, and then you are thus resurrected from the soil. Wages of sin is death, but the blood is for his covenant people, going all the way back to Adam, his firstborn, his covenant son. The blood is only for his covenant people. It is only for his covenant people. It is the way. It is the way of the Yahudym. It is the way of his covenant people. It is the way back to Mount Zion. The blood, the dam. It is the way. Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let the master continue to build his case, little one. Give us another precept.
Do you want Romans 6:23?
You can read Romans 6:23, little one. Go ahead.
For the wages of sin is death, but the favorable gift of Elohim is everlasting life in Mashiach Yahusha, our master.
In Mashiach Yahusha, our master. I wonder why, little one, it's in Yahusha Mashiach, our master. You want to keep that secret from him? Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Come on, give us another precept, little one.
Romans 5:8-12.
Romans 5, verses 8 through 12. 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 Without blood, you have no life. Without dam, you got no life. You got no life. You're dead. You're the living dead. But that dam is only for his covenant people. Where you find the dam, where you find the blood, you find his covenant people. Yes, you do. Where you find the dam, where you find the blood, you find his covenant people. Because it's only for his covenant people. Romans 5, what verses, little one?
8-12.
Verses 8 through 12. Romans 5, verses 8 through 12, beginning at verse 8. Read, little one.
But Elohim proves his own love for us.
Yeah.
In that while we were still sinners.
Yeah.
Mashiach died for us.
Mashiach died for us.
Much more then, having now been declared right by his blood.
Much more having been declared right by his blood. Come on.
We shall be saved from wrath through him.
We shall be saved from wrath through him.
For if being enemies we were restored to favor with Elohim.
For if being enemies we were restored to favor with Elohim.
Through the death of his son.
Through the death of his son.
Much more having been restored to favor.
Much more having been restored to favor.
We shall be saved by his life.
We shall be saved by his life, by his blood. Read.
And not only this, but we also exalt in Elohim.
And not only this, but we exalt in Elohim.
Through our master Yahusha Mashiach.
Through our master Yahusha Mashiach.
Through whom we have now received the restoration to favor.
Through now we have received the restoration to favor. Read.
For this reason, even as through one man sin did enter into the world.
For this reason, even as one man, Adam, sin did enter into the world. Read.
And death through sin.
And death through sin.
And thus death spread to all men.
And thus death spread to all men.
Because all sinned.
Because all sinned. If you don't have the blood, you're a dead man walking. You're the living dead. Yahusha HaMashiach, the lamb slain before the foundation of the world. All of his life was poured out of him. All of his blood, his dung, was poured out upon him upon the ground. Upon the ground. Because you were dead. Because we were dead. His dung was poured out upon the ground in order to resurrect us to life. It was poured out upon the ground because we came from the ground. In order to resurrect us to life. A life for a life, blood for blood. When you sin, all your blood is poured out. All your blood is poured out. Understand what death means. He shows us what death means through the animal offerings. It means to have all of your blood, all of your life drained from your body and poured upon the ground from which you came. And thus, as a dead man, as a dead woman, you now must be resurrected because you're dead. And the only way to be resurrected is via the dung, via the blood being poured out on the ground, a life for life, to have life, renewed life poured into you. Otherwise, you're a dead man, a dead woman walking. You're a dead, stinky thing. You have no life in you if you got no blood in you. Even at a funeral home, the first thing that they do is to drain the life out of you, to drain the life out of a dead body, to drain the blood out of him. It's the first thing that is done. Without blood, you have no life. Come on, read, little one. Give us another precept.
Matthew 26, 26 to 29.
Matthew chapter 26. Matthew chapter 26. Line upon line. Precept upon precept. Here a little. There a little. The dumb is the way. The blood, the dumb is the way of the Yahudym. It is the way of his covenant people. Here in Matthew 26 here, he's talking to Yahudym. He's talking to his covenant people. Matat Yahu chapter 26. What verse, little one?
26 to 29.
26 to 29. Matat Yahu chapter 26, verses 26 through 29. Matthew chapter 26. Verses 26 to 29. Beginning at verse 26. Read, little one.
And as they were eating, Yahushua took bread and having blessed, broke and gave it to the taught ones and said, Take, eat, this is my body.
Take, eat, this is my body. Read.
And taking the cup and giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, Drink from it, all of you.
Drink from it, all of you. Read.
For this is my blood, that of the renewed covenant.
For this is my blood, that of the renewed covenant, because you ain't got no life in you. You need renewed blood in you. You ain't got no life in you. Because of Adam, you dead. We just read the words of Shaul of Paul. Because of the sin of Adam, you're dead. All of your blood has been drained. But the blood of bulls and goats cannot save us. It could not save us. It neither could it erase the conscience of crime, but yet we're still dead because when we sin, the blood is drained from our bodies, because this is what it means. This is what death means, to have all the life drained from your body. And so even though Yahudah, he's speaking to his covenant people, he's speaking here to his covenant people, they were dead. They were dead. And here, although he had never divorced them from the old covenant. Ephraim was divorced from the old covenant. He never divorced Yahudah from the old covenant. He went to Yahudah and he did what? He renewed his covenant with them first. And he's still in this time renewing his covenant with the house of Yahudah first, because Ephraim is still divorced. Yahudah is still his covenant people. Here he says, Take, eat, this is my body. Each of you drink of this, for this is the dam of the renewed covenant. The covenant of life. I'm going to renew my covenant with you, like I renewed it with Adam and Kua by the shedding of blood. When the blood of those two sheep, those two animals, was poured upon the ground, so that they would have new life, so that they could live. Without the blood, without the dam, you're dead, stinking thing. You have no life in you. You're not in covenant with him if you don't have the blood. But the blood is given only to his covenant people. Here is the cup of the renewed covenant. Read.
Which is shed for many for the forgiveness of sins.
Which is shed for many for the forgiveness of sins.
But I say to you, I shall certainly not drink of this fruit of the vine from now until that day when I drink it anew with you in the reign of my Father.
Line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little. The Dam is the way. The blood is the way of the Yahudym. It is the way of his covenant people. It is the way to Mount Zion. It is the way to Mount Zion. It is only for his covenant people. Only for his covenant people. All who come, whether native born or stranger, who come through the Mashiach, through the blood of the renewed covenant, you engraft into the house of Yahudah. As Ephraim is still divorced and will not be restored to covenant until after the great distress. He is destined for the fires of the great distress. You must ensure that you are with Yahudah, lest you be caught in the valley of oh no, saying, oh no, how did I end up here? Line upon line, precept upon precept. The blood is the way. Give us another precept, little one.
We have John 6, 35 to 71.
John 6, Yahudim, chapter 6. The master told you it wasn't that easy, didn't he? He told you it wasn't that easy, didn't he? He said it wasn't as easy to make the confession about the blood, to understand the blood. He wants you to understand, Yahudah, you got to have the blood in you. And as we read in Matthew 26, you got to drink the blood. You got to drink the Dam. If you haven't drank the blood, if you haven't drank the Dam, you ain't Yahudah. You are not his covenant people. And you're not going to Mount Zion. If you have not drank his blood, you're not going to Mount Zion. You're going to be left to Ephraim because Ephraim is still divorced. He is not in covenant. He has not drank the blood. He has not truly drank the blood. He told you it wasn't that easy. He told you it wasn't that easy. You got to be worthy to drink this blood. This blood is priceless. You got to be found worthy to drink this blood. This blood is precious. You've got to be found worthy to drink this blood, to drink this life. To have this blood poured upon the ground because you're dead. To resurrect you from the dead. So that you will have life and live. Otherwise, you're a dead, stinking thing. Why is that important? Because death come into this earth. As Hashatan is death, Yahuwah is life. Death is going to wrap itself up in flesh and come to this earth. And all of those who are dead are going to be subject to him. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. All those who have life are leaving this place and going to Mount Zion. For all those who are dead are going to be subject to death. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You must drink the blood and you must be found worthy to drink the blood. This is Torah. The Dam is given to his covenant people. It is given for the atonement of our sins. It is given for our lives. It is poured out upon the ground from whence we came to breathe the breath of lives into us, as he breathed the breath of lives into Adam, and he became a living being, being brought forth from the earth, the dust. The Dam is poured in the earth. The Dam, being life, is poured there and resurrecting, and thus we having life in us. John 6, beginning at verse what, little one?
35 to 71.
Verse 35 to 71. Yahudim, John chapter 6, beginning at verse 35, reading down to verse 71. Beginning at verse 35, read, little one.
And Yahushua said to them,
yes,
I am the bread of life.
I am the bread of life.
He who comes to me shall not get hungry at all.
Yes.
And he who believes in me shall not get thirsty at all. But I said to you that you have seen me and still do not believe. All that the Father gives me shall come to me. And the one who comes to me I shall by no means cast out. Because I have come down out of the heaven, not to do my own desire, but the desire of him who sent me. Yes. This is the desire of the Father who sent me, that all he has given me I should not lose of it, yes, but should raise it in the last day. Come on. And this is the desire of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him should possess everlasting life.
Shall possess everlasting life. Come on.
And I shall raise him up in the last day.
The life of the creature is his blood. Come on, read.
Therefore the Yahudym were grumbling against him, because he said, I am the bread which came down out of the heaven. And they said, is this not Yahusha, the son of Yahusuf, whose father and mother we know?
Yes.
How is it then that he says, I have come down out of heaven? Then Yahusha answered and said to them, do not grumble with one another. No one is able to come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him. And I shall raise him up in the last day. It has been written in the prophets, and they shall all be taught by Yahuwah. Everyone then who has heard from the Father and learned comes to me. Not that anyone has seen the Father, except he who is from Elohim. He has seen the Father. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me possesses everlasting life. I am the bread of life. Your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness and they died. This is the bread which comes down out of heaven, so that anyone might eat of it and not die. I am the living bread which came down out of the heaven.
I am the Lakam Shamayim. I am the living bread that came down from heaven. Read.
If anyone eats of this bread, he shall live forever. And indeed, the bread that I shall give is my flesh, which I shall give for the life of the world. The Yahudym therefore were striving with one another, saying,
as you had to eat of your own sin offering. Come on, read.
How is this one able to give us flesh to eat? Yahusha therefore said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, unless you eat the flesh of the son of Adam.
Unless you eat the flesh of the son of Adam. Oh, the dumb is the way. Come on.
And drink his blood.
And drink his blood. Come on.
You possess no life in
you. You
yourself.
possess no life in you. The life of the creature is his blood. Without blood, you're a dead, stinking thing. The life of the creature is his blood. If you have no blood in you, you're still dead. You have not been resurrected. And you're going to be left when death puts on flesh. Hasatan is death. He is death. Yes, he is. He is death, and at the end, death, hell, and the grave is going to be thrown into the lake of fire. He is death, and he's coming to this earth. You ain't got life in you, you're dead, and you're going to be left when death comes to deal with you on this earth during the hour of trial, which is soon to come upon this earth. Come on, read, little one.
He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood possesses everlasting life, and I shall raise him up in the last days. My flesh is truly food, and my blood is truly drink. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood stays in me, and I in him. As the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so he who feeds on me shall live because of me.
Come on.
This is the bread which came down out of the heaven. Not as your fathers ate the manna and died. He who eats this bread shall live forever.
Come on.
He said this in a congregation teaching in Capharnaum. Therefore, many of his taught ones, having heard, said,
they stumbled at it, didn't they, little one?
This word is hard. Who is able to hear it? But Yahusha, knowing within himself that his taught ones were grumbling about this, said to them, does this make you stumble? What if you see the son of Adam going up where he was before? It is the Ruach that gives life.
It is the Ruach that gives life. Read.
The flesh does not profit at all.
The flesh does not profit at all. You can stop right there. We're talking Ruach here. That's why the master said it ain't that easy. It's not that easy. The Dam is Ruach. It is the Ruach that gives life. The life of the creature is his blood, it's his Dam. The Dam, the blood he's talking about here, is Ruach. That's the Hebrew word for blood, is Dam, Dalet Mom. Dalet Mom, where you find the letter Mom. It is always indicative of water, and water is always a representation of Ruach, of spirit. It is the spirit that gets us through the door to everlasting life. Dalet meaning door. It is Ruach that gets us through the door to everlasting life. The Dam gets us through the door to everlasting life. The Ruach gets us through the door to everlasting life. It is Ruach that gives us life, and that will lead us to Mount Zion. Only those who have drank in the Dam, who have life, who are not dead, are going to Mount Zion. Hear him. Hear him. You may not receive this message again. Only those who have life, the Dam having been poured out upon the ground, as he as our lamb All of his life was poured upon the ground, the soil for us. We haven't come from the soil, come from the ground. The blood, the dam, was poured upon the soil to resurrect us to life. Ruach. Ruach is dam. It is the life of the creature. The flesh profits nothing. Without Ruach, you're a dead, stinking thing. You're dead. And you are not a true Yahudym, because without Ruach, you're not in covenant with him. Because he's just explained to you that the blood is Ruach. And the blood is the blood of the covenant. It is Ruach that brings us into covenant with the master. As when the Ruach enters us, as a man enters a woman in a sexual act and becoming one flesh with us, and whereby establishing a covenant with us. It is Ruach that that reestablishes the everlasting covenant with the master. It is the dam. Have you drank the dam? You see, this is that sealing the master's talking about. He's been talking about. This is that great sealing that has been going on, that great separation, the sealing that has been going on. He's been pouring out his dam for whoever is thirsty. Whoever is thirsty for it, he's been pouring out his dam. He's been pouring out that living water for whomever is thirsty for it. But after he sealed the number of whom he's going to seal, after he's raised the number of those he's going to raise from the dead in this season, indeed you're raised from the dead. If life is poured into you, you've been raised. Because as a body is dead without breath, a body is dead without blood. He then pours renewed blood into us, renewed wine, renewed life, renewed breath into us, and resurrects us. Because all have sinned. All have sinned. Because of one man, all have sinned. And because of one man, all are dead. And because of that, we all must receive that new life, that new breath, that new wine, that new blood into us in order to be resurrected and in order to live. It is the way of his covenant people. We read the precepts. We went all the way back to the beginning. It is the way of his covenant people. It is the way of the Yahudym. And it is the blood, it is the dam, it is Ruach in us, flowing through our veins. It is Ruach, it is dam, flowing through our veins that will lead us to Mount Zion. He will not leave his treasured possession to wrath. He will not leave those who have been raised from the dead, who have been raised from death to life. He will not leave us to death when death manifests and comes to this earth. He has promised to keep us from the hour of trial, but that is only those who have been redeemed, who have received the blood of the Lamb, who have drank his blood, who have taken in life, who have taken in Ruach. Only for them. There are many who boast and proclaim to have Ruach, but there are many who are liars. The master has shown us where you find Ruach, where you find the blood, the dam, you will find his covenant people. You will also find those amongst his covenant people who are imposters, who are pretending to have the dam, but they're dead men and dead women walking, impersonating a living person, but they are dead. Do not miss your time of visitation pretending. Do not miss your time of visitation, because only those who are alive, who have been resurrected from the dust, the soil, who have his blood flowing through their veins, who have Ruach flowing through their veins, only these are going to Mount Zion. Only these are going to Mount Zion. Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. The dam, the blood is the way of his covenant people. It is the way of the Yahudym. The blood, the dam is Ruach. The blood, the dam, it is Ruach. It is Ruach. We must drink the dam. You must be thirsty for the dam. For the living water, you must be thirsty for it. His covenant people are thirsty. His covenant people are thirsty for the dam, and have received the dam, and have received life. Where you find life, where you find anointing, where you find Ruach, where you find the dam, where you find the master, you find his covenant people. Latch on and let's go to Zion. Latch on and let's go to see him. But you got to drink the dumb like us. You can't latch on if you haven't drinking the dumb. The dalit, the mum, the dalit meaning door. The dumb is the door. The doorway into covenant with him. It is the doorway into his covenant people. It is the doorway into everlasting life. It is the doorway to Mount Zion. The dawn being Ruach. Come on, give us another precept, little one.
Philippians 3:1 through 10.
Philippians 3. Philippians 3. Verses 1 through 10. Philippians 3. Verses 1 through 10. Philippians 3. Verses 1 through 10. How are we looking for time, little one?
1:14.
Philippians 3, verses 1 through 10. Beginning at verse 1. Read, little one.
For the rest, my brothers, rejoice in Yahuwah. To write the same matters to you is truly no trouble to me, and for you it is safe. Look out for dogs, look out for the evil workers, look out for the mutilation, for we are the circumcision. We are serving Elohim in the Ruach and boasting in Mashiach Yahusha. And do not trust in the flesh, though I too might have trust in the flesh. If anyone thinks to trust in the flesh, I, more circumcised the 8th day of the race of Yasharal, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews.
A Hebrew of Hebrews, to all y'all boasting in your wicked flesh. A Hebrew of Hebrews, circumcised on the 8th day of the tribe of Benjamin, a Yahudym man. Come on, read.
According to Torah of Pharisee.
According to the Torah of Pharisee, read.
According to Adur, persecuting the assembly. According to righteousness, that is the law, having become blameless. But what might have been a gain to me, I have counted as loss.
I have counted as loss. I have counted it as dung. In other words, a true Yahudi man, a true one in covenant, understands the blood from the Torah, understands the spiritual matters of the Torah as it relates to pouring the blood upon the ground. A true Yahudi man counts the flesh as dung, counts all of that, counts your genealogy as dung. A true Yahudi man has drank the blood. A true Yahudi man and woman have drank the blood, have been filled with Ruach. This is a true Yahudi man. This is one who is truly in covenant with the master. As a man enters a woman, the Ruach enters us in a sexual way, and whereby reestablishing his covenant with us. Come on, read.
Because of Mashiach. What is more, I
count it as dung because of Mashiach. Come on, read.
I even count all to be lost because of the excellence of the knowledge of Mashiach Yahusha, my master, for whom I have suffered the loss of all, and count them as refuge, in order to gain Mashiach, and be found in him, not having my own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through belief in Mashiach, the righteousness which is from Elohim, on the basis of belief.
He's talking about here, don't get this twisted. He is talking about the same law that we just read back in Leviticus, the animal offerings, this righteousness. How is one made right after committing a wrong? For without the shedding of blood of dung, there is no forgiveness of sin. This is the righteousness that he's talking about. He's talking about animal offerings. As opposed to the righteousness that comes through belief, through the shed dung of Yahushua HaMashiach, which was poured out on the ground for us, that resurrects us from the dead via his Ruach, because the dam is Ruach. Come on, read.
To know him and the power of his resurrection, and the fellowship of his sufferings, being conformed to his death.
Let's go back, little one, about the power of the resurrection. Start a little bit above that. For I know nothing, or I wish to know nothing. Come on.
By that which is through belief in Mashiach, the righteousness which is from Elohim on the basis of belief, to know him and the power of his resurrection.
To know him and the power of his resurrection.
And the fellowship of his sufferings.
And the fellowship of his suffering.
Being conformed to his death.
Being conformed to his death. We die with him. You must die with him. You must die with him. In fact, to be resurrected from the dead, you die with him. Because of sin, because of the sin of Adam, hear him. Hear him. Because of the sin of Adam, all our blood was poured out upon the ground. All of our life was poured out upon the ground. And we had to have new blood poured into us. New blood poured into us. And so indeed, we die with him. We die with him. We die with the Mashiach. But knowing him and the power of his resurrection is to know his dam. And to know the suffering that caused all of his dam to be poured out from his body. To know him and the power of his resurrection is to know his dam. It is to know his blood. It is to know Ruach, of whom resurrects us from the dead. It is Ruach that resurrects us from the dead. It is the blood. It is the dam. It is the life of the creature, which is Ruach, that resurrects us from the dead. It is the outpoured blood of Yahushua HaMashiach, his Ruach, that resurrects us from the dead. This is what it means to know him and the power of his resurrection. Do you know him and the power of his resurrection? Do you know him and the power of his resurrection? Have you drank the dam? Have you received this Ruach? Is it coursing through your veins? Because only his covenant people have drank the dam and have his blood coursing through our veins, his Ruach coursing through our veins, and will be redeemed from this earth and saved from this earth and brought to Mount Zion, saved from the hour of trial. He will not leave those alive to be here when death comes to this earth. No, he won't. He will not leave the living amongst the dead. The living don't dwell amongst the dead. It is the dead that dwells amongst the tombs. The living don't dwell amongst the tombs. We don't dwell amongst the dead. He's coming to get the living, those who have drank the dam, his covenant people, who have a Ruach coursing through their veins. His covenant people, Yahudah, true Yahudah. These are those who are going to Mount Zion. Come on, give us another precept, little one.
Romans 8, 9 through 11.
Romans 8, 9 through 11. Romans 8, 9 through 11. Romans 8, 9 through 11. The dam, the blood, is the way. It is the way of the Yahudym. It is the way of his covenant people. The dam, the blood, is the way of the Yahudym. It is the way of his covenant people. Romans 8, verses 9 through 11. Romans 8, verses 9 through 11. Beginning at verse 9, read, little one.
But you are not in the flesh, but in the Ruach.
But you are not in the flesh, but in the Ruach. Read.
If indeed the Ruach of Elohim dwells in you.
If indeed the Ruach of Elohim dwells in you. The dam flows through your veins. Read.
And if anyone does not have the Ruach of Mashiach.
And if anyone does not have the Ruach of the Mashiach. If anyone does not have the Mashiach, the Ruach of the Mashiach, the Ruach HaKadosh. If anyone does not have the blood, the dam, if anyone have not eaten of his flesh and drinking of his dam, if anyone has not taken on the Ruach HaKadosh, which is the dam, what does it say, little one?
This one is not his.
You ain't his, because this is the blood of the covenant. Only his covenant people belong to him. Everyone else are not his. Only those who are in covenant with him are his. And we're talking about the blood of the covenant, the dam of the covenant, which is Ruach, which brings us into covenant with him. And it is his covenant people, Yahudah, who is going to Mount Zion. Come on, read.
And if Mashiach is in you.
And if Mashiach is in you, if his dam, if his blood is coursing through your veins, read.
The body is truly dead on account of sin.
The body is truly dead on account of sin.
But the Ruach is life on account of righteousness.
But the Ruach is life on account of righteousness. It is life. It is blood. The life of the creature is his blood. It is life on account of righteousness. Read.
And if the Ruach of him who raised Yahusha from the dead.
And if the Ruach of Yahusha, and if the Ruach, start over again, little one, read.
And if the Ruach of him who raised Yahusha from the dead dwells in you.
And if the Ruach of him who raised Yahusha from the dead dwells in you, the blood, the dam dwells in you, read.
He who raised Mashiach from the dead shall also give life to your mortal bodies.
He who raised Yahusha from the dead shall also give life, Kai, to your mortal bodies.
Through his Ruach dwelling in you.
Through his Ruach dwelling in you. To your mortal bodies. Your mortal bodies, your fleshly bodies. That is to say, being raised from the dead. Being raised from a dead state, from the dirt, having the blood been poured out in the dirt. This is what it means to know him and the power of his resurrection. To have his blood poured out into us, to have his dung poured out into us, to have that blood, that life, give life to our mortal bodies, to our mortal bodies. And it is these, his confident people, who know about the dung, who know of the dung, as it is outlined in the Torah. Those who have life, who are going to Mount Zion. Come on, give us another precept.
Acts 2:38.
Acts chapter 2. Acts chapter 2. Line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little. The blood, the dam is the way. The blood, the dam, it is the way. Acts chapter 2, verse 38. Acts chapter 2, verse 38. Acts chapter 2, verse 38. You have an opportunity to not miss your hour, your time of visitation. We're approaching the Feast of Tabernacle. The Feast of Tabernacle is all about the Master doing what? Tabernacling with his covenant people. The blood, the dung, the breath, the ruach of Yahuwah tabernacling with his covenant people. Don't miss this hour of visitation. Don't miss this time of visitation. Don't approach this as a kid's outing. Don't approach this as a camping trip. Don't approach this as a family reunion. We may not have another opportunity as the season comes to a close. Sukkot is the last feast of the season. It's the last feast. And once he sealed the number of his people with the seal of the living Elohim, with breath, with wind, with ruach, with dung, with blood, with life, he ain't sealing no more. He ain't sealing no more. Do not miss your time, your hour of visitation, because you're acting like little buddy, because you're acting like Ephraim. Don't miss your time, your hour of visitation. Don't approach this like a vacation trip or a camping trip. This is serious. This is Kadush to the Master. This is the Feast of Tabernacle of which he wants to come and tabernacle with his people. Acts chapter 2, verse 38. Reading verse 38. Read, little one.
And Kepha said to them, repent, and let each one of you be immersed in the name of Yahushua Mashiach.
Repent from sin. Repent. He's given us an opportunity to repent from crime, which he has said to us and which he has shown to us, line upon line, precept upon precept. If you sin, you die. If you sin, you die. And so he says here, I'm giving you an opportunity. Repent. Repent. And then what, little one?
And you be immersed in the name of Yahushua Mashiach.
And then be immersed in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach for the forgiveness of crimes.
Mm-hmm. And you shall receive the gift of the Kadush Ruach.
And you shall receive the gift of the Kadush Ruach. Repent from crime. It's death. The wages of sin is death. Repent for it. Repent from it. Repent from your Torahless ways. Repent from disobedience to Torah and align yourselves with his righteous Torah. Then be immersed in the righteous name of Yahushua HaMashiach, whereby being impaled with him, having your blood being poured out with his, having your wicked blood being poured out with his. You're already dead, in fact, but having your blood being joined to his death, being joined to his suffering, being joined to his death, and being joined to his blood being poured out, being impaled with him, and being buried with him in immersion. And then being resurrected now to the newness of life. How are you resurrected to the newness of life? The next stage is, and you will receive the gift, the promise of the Ruach HaKadosh. You will then receive blood. You will then receive dung, because when you're buried in the earth. When you're buried with the Mashiach, as he was buried in the earth, you are buried in the earth. You're buried in the ground. And then having the blood been poured out in the ground upon you, having life being poured out upon you, and being resurrected to the newness of life. For your blood being poured out in the ground, for your dung, for your ruach, for your life, for your breath, And now being able to walk in the newness of life as his covenant people. Having his covenant renewed in us. And being able now to walk as Yahudym. And to be found worthy, Barak Yahuwah, to make it to Mount Zion, where we will be given a song that no one else can sing. And then being the first to be brought back into the land with those who say that they are Yahudym but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. He will bring them before us to worship before us. Showing them what true Yahudi look like. Showing them what true Yahudah looks like. Give us another precept, little one.
Romans 6, 1 through 4.
Romans chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. I don't think we have much further to go. Romans chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. Romans chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. The dam, the blood is the way. The dam, the blood, it's the way. It's the way of the Yahudym. It's the way of his covenant people. It is the way. It is the door to Mount Zion. It is the door to everlasting life. It is the door to the Master. It is the door to Yahuwah. It is the door to Mount Zion. The dam, the blood, the shed dam, the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach, which is Ruach, which is life, is the way to Mount Zion. Romans chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. Beginning at verse 1. Come on, read, little one.
What then shall we say?
What then shall we say?
Shall we continue in sin to let favor increase? Let it not be. How shall we who died to sin still live in it?
How shall we who have died to sin still live in it?
Or do you not know that as many as us as were immersed into Mashiach, Yahusha, were immersed into his death?
Yes.
We were therefore buried with him through immersion into death, that as Mashiach was raised from the dead by the esteem of the Father, so also we should walk in the newness of life.
So also we shall walk in the newness of life. This is a resurrection. But to be resurrected, you must receive life, because you're dead. You're buried. You're in the ground. You're in the soil. And the only way to live is to die with the Mashiach. It's to first repent from your Torahless ways, from your unclean ways. And then to be immersed in his Kadosh name, which by belief now, you are dying with him and being buried with him and being resurrected to the newness of life, thus having the penalty of death pronounced over mankind, paid in you through belief in him. And as you're buried in the soil and having his blood being poured out upon the soil, his water poured out upon you, because you were dirt. You came from dirt. You came from dust. Having that life poured out into you. Having Ruach poured out into you, you are now being resurrected to the newness of life via Ruach, via breath, via his dam. Now walk in the newness of life. And walking in the newness of life will get us all the way to Mount Zion. It will take us all the way there. Walking in the newness of life, walking in Ruach, walking in breath, walking in his dam as his covenant people will get us to Mount Zion. Give us another precept, little one.
Hebrews 9, 13 to 18.
Hebrews 9. Hebrews 9. Abarim chapter 9. Hebrews, Abarim chapter 9. Hebrews, Abarim chapter 9. The dam is the way of his covenant people. It ain't given to nobody else. The dam is not given to anyone else. You must be in covenant with him. It is the blood of the covenant. You must be in covenant with him to receive the dam. In fact, it's a simultaneous act. When you receive the dam, the covenant is renewed in you. It is renewed in you. But you must behave as one of his covenant people before that act takes place. And to behave as one of his covenant people is to obey the instructions that he gave his covenant people. That is his righteous Torah. He is the living Torah. So to obey the Torah is to obey him. You must walk as Yahudah. You must walk as one of his covenant people and obey the same instructions that he gave to us, that he gave to his covenant people, his righteous Torah. So it begins with repentance. And then a death, burial, and resurrection, being immersed into his name. And then being resurrected from the dirt via the blood being poured out into the dirt. And resurrecting you from the dirt, resurrecting you from death to life via Ruach. Via Ruach. What's the next precept, little one?
Hebrews 9, 13 to 18. Hebrews
9, verses 13 to 18. Abarim chapter 9, verses 13 to 18. Beginning at verse 13. Come on, read, little one.
For if the blood of bulls and goats and the ashes of a heifer, sprinkling the defiled, kadosh for the cleansing of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Mashiach, who through the everlasting Ruach offered himself unblemished to Elohim, cleanse your conscience from dead works.
Cleanse your conscience from dead works, read.
To serve the living Elohim.
To serve the living Elohim, read.
And because of this, he is the mediator of a renewed covenant.
And because of this, he is the mediator of a renewed covenant, read. His blood, his dam, his Ruach, read.
So that death having taken place for redemption.
For that death having taken place for redemption.
Of the transgressions under the first covenant.
Under the transgression of the first covenant.
Those who are called might receive the promise of the everlasting inheritance. For where a covenant is.
For where a covenant is, read.
It is necessary for the death of the covenant one to be established.
It is necessary for the death of the covenant one to be established. And the master's already outlined what that means. To die means to have all of your blood poured out. It means to have all your blood poured out. The wages of sin is death, so we must die. We must die. Die now, die later. But we must die. We must die. All of our blood must be poured out. And in order to have the covenant renewed in us, a covenant alludes to permanency. A covenant is something permanent. And so in order for a covenant to be permanent, the one in covenant must die. You must die. You must be dead. And so that penalty of death, it must be played out. But he has given us the Mashiach. He has given us the blood, the dam of the Mashiach, to be immersed with him, to die with him, to be buried with him. And to have his dam, his blood, the blood of the covenant, poured out in us. Thus us dying with him and having the blood of the covenant poured out in us. Thus having the covenant being made permanent in us. Having the covenant, the renewing of the everlasting covenant made permanent in us. This is only for his covenant folk. This is only for his covenant folk. And so the only way for a covenant to be permanent is for the covenant one to die. This is why animals died in our ancestors' place. In order for the covenant to be permanent, there must be blood. There must be death. There must be death. There must be blood. This is where the sprinkling of the blood came from at the base of Mount Sinai. This is where the sprinkling of the blood comes from on us. We are sprinkled. Those of us who have received this Ruach, who have drank this dam, we've been sprinkled by his blood, by the blood of the covenant. Symbolic of death. Symbolic of a death taking place to make the covenant permanent. Symbolic of us dying with him and going to the soil and having his dam, his blood poured out upon the soil in accordance with the Torah. And having been poured out in us as we came from the soil and resurrecting us from the soil. From the soil. This is Judah. This is Yahudah. Ephraim will not have the covenant renewed until after the great distress. They won't until after the great distress. It's in the same scriptures that most of you don't like to read. Ephraim will not come back to covenant as a whole until after the great distress. But the sign, the seal, and the mark of Yahudah is the dam, Yahudah. It's the dam. It's the dam. As we read, I believe it's in the book of Exodus. It is in the book of Exodus chapter 12. It says that the blood is a sign forever. The blood is a sign forever. The blood, that word sign there in the Hebrew is the word awuf, 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 aleph, u, and tar. Aleph, u, and tar. And it alludes to covenant as the alaf and the tar is Yahuwah. He is the alaf and the tar, the beginning and the everlasting covenant. It is the blood, it is the dam that connects us to covenant with the master. It is the sign of his people. It is the sign that we are in covenant with him. The dam, the blood, is the sign that we are in covenant with him. That's the purpose of the circumcision, that when the penis would bleed. The dam. This is the sign that we are in covenant with him. The dam is the sign that we are in everlasting fellowship with the master. Yes, it is. It symbolizes death. It symbolizes death. Thus there must be death. There must be death. And we must be resurrected back to life via the blood, the dam, which is the life of the creature, via Ruach, which is life, via Ruach, which is life. This is the sign of his covenant people. This is the sign of Yahudah, where you find the Dom on the doorpost. Where you find the Dom on the doorpost, you find his covenant people. You find Yahudah. Where you find the true anointing, where you find true Ruach, you find his covenant people. You find Yahudah. Come on, read, little one.
For a covenant over those dead is firm, since it is never valid while the covenant one is living. Therefore, not even the first covenant was instituted without blood.
Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Line upon line, precept upon precept. The Dom is the way. The blood is the way. I don't know how much the Master's going to proclaim this through me. How much longer? The Dom, the blood is the way. To those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, the Dom, the blood is the way of the Yahudym. It is the way of his covenant people. Without it, without drinking the blood, you ain't in covenant with him. You're not in covenant with him. You don't know him and he don't know you. Without having drinking his blood, it's not enough to say it. To understand it, you must actually drink it and have it flowing through your veins. You must actually have his blood, his Dom, flowing through your veins to have life. And to be found worthy to make it to Mount Zion. Come on, give us another precept, little one.
1 John 1, 5 through 7.
1 John 1. 1 John 1. 5 through 7. 1 John chapter 1, verses 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 5 through 7. Beginning at verse 5. Read for us, little one.
And this is a message which we have heard from him and announced to you, that Elohim is light and in him is no darkness at all.
Elohim is light. Elohim is Torah. Elohim is life. Light equates to life. Elohim is light. Elohim is life, and in him is no darkness. In him is no evil. In him is no wickedness, no uncleanness, no Torahlessness, no death, because the wages of sin is death. Torahlessness equals death. In him is no darkness. Torahlessness is darkness. In him is no death. Hashatan is death. He is life. Read.
If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness.
If we say we have fellowship with him and walk in death, walk in darkness, walk in Torahlessness, walk absent of his breath, of his blood. If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, read.
We lie and are not doing the truth.
We lie and are doing the truth. Read.
But if we walk in the light as he is the light.
But if we walk in light, in Torah, in obedience to Torah of life, because Torah is life. It's in the very same scriptures that most of you don't like to read. Torah is life. Yes, it is. But if we walk in the light, in life, in Torah, as he is in the light, and as he is the living Torah, as he is life, as he is Ruach, then what, little one?
We have fellowship with one another.
We have fellowship with one another.
And the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach, his son, cleanses us from all crime.
And the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach then cleanses us from all crime. Again, the blood, the Dam, is only for his covenant people. Only his covenant people walk in light, walk in truth, true truth, in spirit and in truth, in spirit and in truth. Only his true people walk in light, walk in life. Only his true covenant people, rather, walk in light. And as a result of that, the blood being for his covenant people, it cleanses us from all crime. It's only for his covenant people. The Dam is the way. It is the way of the Yahudym. It is the way of his covenant people. It is the door to Mount Zion. Come on, read, little one.
Exodus 13, 1 through 13.
Exodus chapter 13. We're rounding about now. Exodus chapter 13. Shamut chapter 13, verses 1 through 13. Line upon line, precept upon precept. The Dam is the way. It is the way of his covenant people. It is the way to Mount Zion. Exodus Shamut chapter 13, verses 1 through 13. Line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little. This is the most important building block to date. This is the most important one to date. This is the most important one to date. All of the rest of the building blocks, they proceed from this one. They proceed from this one. Exodus chapter 13, Shamut chapter 13, verses 1 through 12.
13.
Verses 1 through 13. Beginning at verse 1. Come on, read, little one.
And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Kadush to me all the firstborn.
Kadush to me all the firstborn, because the firstborn is his covenant people. This stems from Adam, whom he first established his covenant with on earth. Adam, being firstborn. This alludes to covenant. Set apart for me all the firstborn. Read.
The one opening the womb among the children of Yasharal, among men and among beasts, it is mine.
It is mine.
And Moshe said to the people, remember this day in which you went out of Mitzrayim, out of the house of slavery. For by strength of hand Yahuwah brought you out of this place. And whatever is leaving shall not be eaten. Today you are going out in the new month of Abib, and it shall be when Yahuwah brings you into the land of the Canaanites and the Katites and the Amorites and the Kawawites and the Yabusites, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep this service in this new month. 7 days you eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day is a festival to Yahuwah. Unleavened bread is to be eaten the 7 days, and whatever is leavened is not to be seen with you, and leaven is not to be seen with you within all your borders. And you shall inform your son in that day, saying, it is because of what Yahuwah did for me when I came up from Mitzrayim, and it shall be as a sign to you on your hand, and as a reminder between your eyes, that the Torah of Yahuwah is to be in your mouth. For with a strong hand Yahuwah has brought you out of Mitzrayim, and you shall guard this law at its appointed time from year to year. And it shall be when Yahuwah brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your fathers, and gives it to you, that you shall give over to Yahuwah everyone opening the womb.
You should give over to Yahuwah everyone opening the womb. Read.
And every firstborn that comes from your livestock.
And every firstborn. This goes back to Adam. This goes back to Adam. Every firstborn, his covenant people, which was originally the everlasting covenant, originally being established with his firstborn son, Adam. Thus Yasharal is his firstborn, and thus the renewing of the covenant is made with us. Read.
The males belong to Yahuwah.
The males belong to Yahuwah. Read.
But every firstborn of a donkey you are to ransom with a lamb.
But every firstborn of a donkey you are to ransom with a lamb.
And if you do not ransom it, then you shall break its neck.
Then you shall break its neck. Read.
And every firstborn of man among your sons you are to ransom.
And every firstborn among your sons. It says ransom here, but this word is more accurately redeemed. Redeemed. Every firstborn from among your sons you are to redeem. How are you to redeem them? And what are you to redeem them from? You are to redeem them from death. How do you redeem them from death? By giving them life. By shedding blood. By slaying the firstborn of an animal in their place and having its life poured out upon the ground in their stead. So you redeem them with blood. You redeem them with the life of the creature. A life for a life. You redeem them with blood, having the blood poured out upon the ground, and redeeming them with blood, redeeming them with life, redeeming them with ruah. Only for his firstborn, only for his covenant people. It ain't for nobody else. Only for his covenant people. Only for his covenant people. But this is the house of Yahuwah is open to all mankind. It's open to all of you. All of you, native born and strangers, can attach yourselves to Yahuwah. All of you, it's always been this way. It has always been this way. You're not excluded. All men can attach themselves to Yahuwah, provided that you do what Yahuwah does. And you too walk as a Yahudym. That you too drink the dam, the blood. Because again, this goes all the way back to Adam. This is about the restoration and the reconciliation of Adam, all mankind, back to covenant with the Master via the dam, via the blood. This is about resurrecting all mankind from the dead, via the dam, via the blood, via ruach. And so a life for a life, a firstborn for a firstborn, poured out upon the ground. Firstborn of man, redeemed, purchased, bought by the blood of a firstborn of a sheep, a bull, or a goat. Having the blood poured out upon the ground. Having the life poured out upon the ground from the place from which man came. Resurrecting him from the dead. Give us another precept, little one.
Leviticus 25, 47 to 49.
Leviticus chapter 25. What verse, little one?
47 to 49.
Verses 47 to 49. Leviticus chapter 25. Uikra chapter 25, verses 47 to 49. We're almost done. Leviticus Uikra chapter 25, verses 47 through 49. Leviticus Uikra chapter 25, verses 47 to 49. Beginning at verse 47. Read, little one.
Now when a sojourner or a settler with you becomes rich, and your brother with him becomes poor, and sells himself to the settler or sojourner with you, or to a member of the sojourner's clan, after he has been sold, there's a right of redemption to him.
There's a right of redemption for him, for one who's been sold into bondage, sold into slavery. There's a right of redemption for him. Read.
One of his brothers does redeem him.
One of his brothers does redeem him.
Or his uncle, or his uncle's son does redeem him. Or anyone who is a close relative to him in his clan does redeem him.
Does redeem him.
If he is able, then he shall redeem himself.
Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. The only way to be redeemed from death, again, Hasatan is death. He is death. He is the Pharaoh of Mashraim. He is Mashraim. He is darkness. The only way to be redeemed from death is to what? Is to be brought back to life. The only way to be snatched from the adversary's hand, who is death, is to be brought back to life. To be redeemed, to be purchased. The only way to be redeemed from bondage, from Egypt, from slavery, is to be brought back to life via having life poured into you, having blood, the dumb, having drank the blood, having the ruach, which is life, poured into you. This is the only way to be redeemed from death. There is no other alternative. The only way to be redeemed from death is to be brought back to life. And he, our brother, a Yahudym man, redeems us from death. He redeems us from death. He redeems us from Hashatan, who is death. Via blood, via dam, via pouring blood into us, pouring the blood upon the ground, pouring life upon the ground, resurrecting us from the ground, pouring ruach into us. This is the only way to snatch us from the adversary's hand. He is death. As he is death, the master is life. He is death. The only way to snatch us from his hand is to resurrect us, to redeem us to life with his shed dam. Oh, there's power in the dam. There's power in the dam. There is power in the dam. If you have this dam flowing through your veins, there is no power in hell that can destroy us. There is no power in hell that can snatch us from his hands. Because we've been redeemed from death to life. Having had his blood poured into us. Giving us life, reviving us, resurrecting us from death to life. The blood, the dam, is the only way to redeem us from death. Death is bondage. Death is slavery. Death is sin. Death is darkness. Blood is the only way to redeem his firstborn son. It is the only way to redeem him. And this precious price has been paid for his covenant people. Come on, read, little one.
Romans 7:14.
Romans 7:14. Romans chapter 7, verse 14. We're going to kind of go through the scriptures now. If you just want to write these down so that we don't prolong this much longer. Romans chapter 7, verse 14. Write that down or put it in the chat. Romans 7:14. Read verse 14, little one.
For we know that the Torah is spiritual.
For we know that the Torah is spiritual.
But I am fleshly, sold under sin.
But I am fleshly, sold under sin. So what the master wants you to understand is that our father Adam, he sold us into bondage. He sold us into sin. Sin is death. The wages of sin is death. He sold us into death. For the day in which you partake of the fruit is the day that you would die, both to him and to his descendants. And so we were sold to death. We were sold to death. We were sold to Hasatan. We were sold into bondage. We were sold into slavery. We were sold into Egypt. He is death. And the only way to redeem us from him, to redeem us from death, is to pour life into us via blood, via dam. This is the only way to be redeemed and to be snatched from the hands of death and brought back to life. And these are the ones who have been redeemed, who have been snatched from the adversary's hand, because hear him, death is getting ready to put on flesh and come to this earth shortly. He is going to manifest and put on flesh. Death himself is coming to this earth. But those who have been redeemed from death, who have been snatched from his hand, who have been raised to life, who have had the blood poured upon the ground for them, and having drank the blood and having received the ruach of life, those who have been redeemed, who have received the seal of the living Elohim, who have had his name written upon their foreheads, indicating that they are a dwelling place, that he resides in them, and he and them in him. They have drank the dam, they have drank the blood. It is them who are going to be redeemed and saved from the hour of trial and brought to Mount Zion and then back to our land. Give us another precept, little one.
Romans 1:16.
Romans 1, verse 16. Write these down. Romans chapter 1, verse 16. Romans chapter 1, verse 16. Romans chapter 1, verse 16. Read verse 16, little one.
For I am not ashamed of the good news of Mashiach.
I'm not ashamed of the good news of Bashar of the Mashiach. What is the good news of the Mashiach? That his shed dam has renewed the everlasting covenant. That's the good news in a nutshell. That's more, but in a nutshell, that's it. That the everlasting covenant has been renewed by his shed dam. We have been brought from death. We have been redeemed from death to life. This is the good news. Read.
For it is the power of Elohim for deliverance to everyone who believes, to the Yahudi first.
To the Yahudi first. See, you've read this. Maybe many of you may have read this 100 times, but now he's giving you understanding. To the Yahudi first. Then.
And also to the Greek.
And then also to the Greek. The tents of Yahudah will be saved first. The tents of Yahudah will be saved first. His covenant people will be saved first. His true covenant people are those who understand the meaning of the dam. Because the dam is for his covenant people. They have drank the dam. They have taken on breath on Ruach. They've been raised from death to life. It is these who have been redeemed by the blood, by the dam. Redeemed by the dam. The only way to be redeemed back from death is to have life poured unto you. The life of the creature is his blood. Having been raised from death to life, it is these and these alone who have been redeemed by the dam. Yahudah. To Yahudah first. Then also to the Greek. The Greek is Ephraim. The Greek here, it alludes to nations. It alludes to Gentiles. It alludes to Ephraim, who is every nation, tribe, and tongue. To the Yahudi first. Yahudah will be redeemed first and brought to Mount Zion, and then to our land, and then Ephraim. True Yahudah are those who have been redeemed by the dam, who have the dam coursing through their veins, who have Ruach coursing through their veins, who have been raised from death to life, and who are walking as true Yahudym. Give us another precept, little one.
1 Peter 1, 18 and 19.
1 Peter 1, verse 18 and 19. We're almost done. 1 Peter 1, verses 18 through 19. 1 Peter 1, verses 18 through 19. Beginning at verse 18. Read, little one.
Knowing that you are redeemed from your futile behavior.
Knowing that you were redeemed, Yahudah. These are the words of a Yahudi man. Knowing that you were redeemed, Yahudah. Read.
Inherited from your fathers, not with what is corruptible.
Not with what is corruptible. Read.
Silver or gold.
Silver or gold.
But with the precious blood of Mashiach.
But with the precious blood of Yahushua HaMashiach.
As a lamb unblemished.
As a lamb unblemished.
And spotless.
And spotless. And spotless. The only way to be redeemed from death is via blood. It's via life. The only way to be snatched from the adversary's hand, who is death, is via blood. We've been purchased. We've been blood bought. We've been redeemed. We no longer belong to the adversary. Provided that you've drank the blood. Provided that you've taken on life and been resurrected from death to life and have received his ruach and have been brought back into covenant with him. It is only his covenant people, who is Yahudah, who will be brought to his Kadush mountain. It is the tents of Yahudah who will be saved first. Yahudah is the first to be redeemed. Yahudah is the first to have the covenant renewed in us. Whether you're from the tribe of Yahudah or whether you're from the tribe of Issachar, it does not matter. If you attach yourself to Yahudah, you are for now a Yahudym. Because indeed, again, Ephraim will not be as a whole restored to covenant until after the great distress. It is the blood, the dam is the way. It is the way of the Yahudym. It is the way of his covenant people. It is the way of redemption. It is the way of redemption. The only way of redemption, the only way of being redeemed from death is to have life poured into you, the blood, the ruach, having a ruach poured out into you, the dam, and being raised from death to life. It is these, only these, who have the seal of the living Elohim, who are going to be saved from the hour of trial. Give us another precept, little one.
That's the last one. Revelation 14, 1 through 5.
Revelation 14, 1 through 5 is the last precept. Revelation 14, 1 through 5. We've read it many times, but we have to read it as long as the master tells me to read it. Revelation 14, verses 1 through 5. Revelation 14, verses 1 through 5. Beginning at verse 1. Read, little one.
And I looked and saw a lamb standing on Mount Zion.
And I looked and saw a lamb, the lamb who shed his dam, who poured out his dam upon the earth for us, who redeemed us from death to life, with his dam, having all of it poured out upon the ground. His ruach poured out upon the ground into us who come from the ground, and redeeming us from death to life. That very same lamb who shed his dam, we find him here on Mount Zion. Read.
And with him 144,000.
And with him 144,000. Read.
Having his father's name written upon their foreheads.
Having his father's name written upon their foreheads. These are those who are the dwelling place of YAHUAH'S, who have been redeemed, who have received this ruach, who have drank the blood. Read.
And I heard a voice out of the heaven, like the voice of many waters, and like the voice of loud thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps, and they sang a renewed song before the throne, and before the four living creatures and the elders. And no one was able to learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth.
Who were what?
Who were redeemed from the earth.
Who were redeemed from the earth. The only way to be redeemed from death is via blood, via dam, via the shed dam of the Lamb. These are those who have been redeemed. These are firstborn, who have been redeemed by the blood, who have drank the blood, who have drank the dam. The dam is spirit, the dam is ruach, and who have it coursing through their veins. It says here who have been redeemed from the earth. Again, the Hebrew word for earth is aratz, and aratz means earth. It means soil. It means land. These are those who have been resurrected from the earth, resurrected from the soil, via having the dam, the blood poured out in the soil, giving them life, having received ruach, and having been raised from death to life, being dwelling places, having his name, because where his name is, he dwells, being dwelling places of YAHUAH'S, his covenant people, his covenant people. It is these who are going to Mount Zion. As the dam is the way, it is the way of his covenant people. It is the doorway back to Mount Zion. It is the doorway to everlasting life. Thank you for the dam, Master. Thank you for your shed dam. Thank you for your shed dam that has snatched us from death to life, that has snatched us from the adversary's hand. Calls us to never forget the dam. Calls us to never forget what you have done. It is my prayer, though, Master, that this message has shaken your people, has shaken them from their complacency, has shaken them from pushing away from the wine, from pushing away from the dam, from pushing away from the ruach, and showing them the importance of receiving the dam, of drinking the blood. Because without the blood, without drinking the dam and eating the flesh, we have no life in us. It is my prayer, my Master, that this word has indeed shaken your people across the four corners of this earth. And your people are even more aware of the importance of the dam, of this building block, and are even more aware now what it looks like to walk as Yahudym, so that they can make the clear distinction between who is Yahudym and who is Ephraim. It is my prayer, my Master, that not one word, one seed that has been spoken this day has fallen by the wayside, such that the adversary, the devil, our adversary, will come and snatch away that seed. Bind his hands this day, Master. Bind his hand and frustrate and bring to naught his wicked devices this day. Let not one seed or one word of this seed, Master Yahuwah, be scattered on shallow soil, such that it grows up but having no depth. It withers right away when the sun begins to shine on it. Let not one word, one seed fall amongst thorns, such that the cares and the desires of this world, which is a world designed in the image of the wicked one. It is a fallen world designed in his very image. It is not the same world in which you created. It has been recreated in his image. I pray that not one seed, one word is falling amongst thorns, lest the desires and cares of this earth, designed in the image, redesigned in the image of the adversary, comes and chokes that word out, that seed out. But it is my prayer that the seed, Master, that the seed, the word, has been planted in good soil from whence we came, and good soil from whence we came, such that you will come and pour out your dam, your blood upon that seed, your living water upon that seed, so that that seed, us and you and us, will begin to grow and become a mighty tree, producing fruit that leads to everlasting life. In Yahushua name, our Master, our Messiah, our Redeemer, so be it. To those of you who are on YouTube who will hear this teaching later on, we pray that you've been edified this day. We pray that you have been convicted and that you've been shaken. We pray that you've been challenged. We pray that you would seek the dumb, that you would drink the dumb while it is still being poured out, while there is a sealing still going on, while an hour of visitation is still going on, that you would seek him before it's too late, that you would attach yourself to true Yahudah, and that you would begin to walk as Yahudym, where he has promised to keep us from the hour of trial and bring us to his Kadosh mountain, where he will give us a song that no one else can sing, and then bring us back into our land. Until the next time we meet, Yahuwah barak you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor unto you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you shalom. Thus you shall put my name on the children of Yasha'al, and I myself shall barak them. So be it, so be it, so be it. Shalom.